Welcome back, everybody, to the Kalispell Warhawks Dynasty. This team is nearly ready to make their debut on the football field. We've now had a chance to meet the team and see the players in action. If you haven't seen the preseason scrimmage, definitely check it out. It was a ton of fun seeing these players get to compete, and that game did help determine who was going to get some initial playing time. So today, what we're going to cover before we get to week 1 next episode is basically the season setup. What does the schedule look like? What does the depth chart look like? And what does the first recruiting board in Kalispell Warhawk history look like? I will break down the top prospects on the board, and recruiting will make up most of this video. Before we get going, however, thank you all for the great support over the first 2 videos. I think we have a great dynasty in store, and if you haven't already, hit that subscribe button so you don't miss any of the Kalispell Warhawk dynasty. We all know the top players on this roster, and we got to see them in action in the preseason scrimmage. Here are the players who have been redshirted here in the first season. Not many names that I probably mentioned in the scrimmage. These are all true freshmen who would likely not play much this season. There are some players I have high hopes for, like Antone Slater at corner or TJ Strong at linebacker. I don't anticipate taking the red shirt off of anybody, but injuries and poor performance could always change that, and I would consider it if it wasn't too late in the season. Now for our first season schedule, and the inaugural game in Kalispell Warhawk history will be played at home against the Idaho Vandals. I'm looking forward to our opening game. However, in week 2, we travel to Washington to play the Huskies. It can be very beneficial for teams like Kalispell to travel and play these large schools, and it earns the program some additional revenue, and it gives us a game in one of our pipeline states for potential recruits to end up seeing. Our third non-conference game will be against UMass in the middle of the season. We open conference play in week 3 against New Mexico. There is also a stretch where we will play 4 straight games on the road. Here is the final depth chart for this team, and Austin Bradley is still going to be the starting quarterback. Many of you liked what you saw from Marquise Walker in the scrimmage. I liked what I saw as well, and one thing I mentioned is he's going to play. Bradley is not going to take every snap. There are packages where Walker is going to play, not just gimmick stuff either. If we just want to use him for a drive and use more of the option looks, which isn't so gimmicky, we're going to be playing it basically how some teams play with their running backs. Play the hot hand. If there's a certain strategy we have to use against a certain defense, we're going to adapt to that because we don't have major strengths we can rely on. We have to be creative, treat every game differently, and consider all strategies and all players we can involve. Year 1 is going to be about creativity and aggressiveness. We're not going to have some vanilla game plan that doesn't change very much and just say, well, we're a brand new team, we're not supposed to do well. We have a few playmakers on offense we're going to be creative with, and on defense you'll see a variety of different looks, along with zone blitzes that will hopefully help us swing some games with big plays. Here is a look at the coaching staff, with head coach Leon Daniels trying to lead this team in year 1 and also bring in recruits that will help build the program. Defensively, Jonathan Starks is focused on helping us get pass rush. That's the idea behind our aggressive scheme. Get after the quarterback, try and make a play. On offense, ball security is our initial focus. We're not going to win many games by turning the football over constantly. It's the first year of the program, and right now the target number of wins is 5, which will not get you into a bowl game in most situations, but for a brand new team in Kalispell, Montana, 5 wins is not a bad target. And I believe our first game is a winnable one, although we will be home underdogs. But look at Kirk Herbstreit. He believes in the Warhawks here in week 1. We will see if the excitement behind the first game in team history helps lead the Warhawks to a victory in their very first game. We are projected to finish 5th in the Mountain Division right now out of 7 teams, as expectations are not very high for New Mexico nor Wyoming. I like to see your record predictions down below in the comments section. Alright, now it's time to talk recruiting for the rest of the episode, or almost the rest of the episode. We're really going to emphasize this aspect of the dynasty. We'll be talking about these recruits quite a bit. First off, what are the advantages of recruiting right now for Kalispell? The academics are definitely going to help, and that is their highest rated trait. Conference prestige is helping. We are in the Mountain West Conference, and the coach prestige. Despite having not coached a game yet, Leon Daniels has a reputation that is hard to ignore. There is also the campus lifestyle, very unique to a place like Kalispell for those that enjoy the outdoors. There's Glacier National Park that isn't too far away. But for those prospects looking for a championship contender or a chance to go to the NFL, right now Kalispell doesn't have a ton to offer. We have two pipeline states, California and Washington. We're not getting the top prospects from those areas, but we do have those options and maybe some overlooked prospects that want some early playing time. Here's a look at our first recruiting map, and we're kind of all over the place right now. A lot of prospects over in the mountain states and Washington, California, but also we have some in Ohio, Pennsylvania, some from Texas and Louisiana, and a few from our home state of Montana. I do want to focus more on growing our pipeline states and trying to get the states near Montana like North Dakota, where we have a couple prospects that I'm looking at right now. You can see a couple 3 stars right there, and one from Minnesota as well. So here is a look at our team overview. We have 9 juniors on the team and 11 seniors, so majority of this team is very young. We have some redshirt freshmen, true freshmen, and a lot of sophomores as well. I would hope that we can bring in more than 11 new players for next year, which means that the competition at the younger level is going to be very important to this team. But before we think about how many players we could bring into Kalispell, we have to look at the quality of players. And here is the Spark 100. These are your top prospects in the entire nation, all recruited by the big schools that you watch on TV. Kalispell's not there yet. There are no players in the top 100 considering Kalispell in their top 10 schools. This is no surprise. Kalispell is a brand new football program in Montana, so where do we begin? Let's look at our home state. How many recruits come from Montana? 7. Only 7, which means most of our recruiting work is going to happen in other states. Our situation is kind of a deal breaker for Matt Taylor, so it's actually 6 prospects we can actually offer a scholarship to and try to convince to come play football at Kalispell. My favorite of these prospects is defensive end Chris Everson, and I'll be breaking him down along with the rest of our top 10 on the board here very shortly. How about players who just have an interest in Kalispell in the top 10? How many? 50. That is a lot nicer of a number to work with. And here is a look at that. They are all 3-star prospects and under. I scouted many of them, and not all of them actually lived up to 3-star hype, sadly. So I had to rework the board a couple times. How many had Kalispell in their top 5? It was actually quite a bit. 47 of those players. So how do we narrow it down from there? Top 3. Who is really considering Kalispell? 24 of those players. Many of these players are from our pipeline states or in close proximity, although there are players from all around the country, including a prospect from Hawaii. However, I couldn't just use this list, and as a matter of fact, our top prospect on the recruiting board isn't showing any interest in Kalispell, and I'm not even sure if he's heard of this team. This is the top 10, with J.R. Battle, a quarterback prospect, at the top of the board. I may rework the order a little bit, but we'll break down all 10 of these players I have initial interest in. J.R. Battle is a 3-star quarterback from Van Wert, Ohio. He wants to play for a prestigious conference, and he wants to play very early. Now, he's a 3-star prospect, but after a little bit of scouting, I could tell he was a lot better than the projections said. And it makes sense that he would want to play early. He's a good quarterback, and he wants to show that he was overlooked. 83 throw power, 77 accuracy. It's not a bad start. However, we have to let him know that this team exists, and that this is a place where he can have the opportunity to get some early playing time. Currently, he is favoring UConn, but this process is still very early. The number 2 prospect is from Montana, 3-star defensive end Chris Everson, who is 6'2", 260 pounds. We don't really fit his main interests, and he isn't prioritizing staying close to home. But perhaps we can convince him to stay in-state and become the first player in Kalispell football history from the state of Montana. I see him as a base left end who can stop the run. I'm not sure about his pass rushing yet. At tackle, Bruce Franklin from Pennsylvania. We are 3rd on his list, and he's a 3-star prospect at 6'5", 280 pounds. Again, I'm not sure we fit his main desires, but we are going to chase after a lot of these offensive linemen. Building up our trenches is going to be one of the first priorities. At number 4, we have a higher rated prospect here in safety Paul Rogers from Grafton, North Dakota. He wants to stay close to home, and that's where we have an advantage over a lot of other teams. However, we're competing against Minnesota, and Minnesota is closer for him. They're also a much larger and more established program. Rogers is a really intriguing safety given that he has good movement and he's a good run stopper. If his coverage shows promise, then we're going to be very aggressive in trying to get him as we try to turn North Dakota into a pipeline state. From Santa Rosa, California, Jamaal Williams is a linebacker we have a lot of interest in. He wants to stay close to home, and Montana is fairly close. He is a pretty well-rounded linebacker who is actually very good in coverage, but doesn't necessarily have a standout strength. He's not going to wow you as an athlete, but he can definitely stop the run, and if he has good coverage instincts, he can play all 3 downs. Number 6, here is center David Battle from Canyon Lake, Texas. We have some work to do to get up in this recruiting battle, and we're not necessarily that close to home, so we're not going to be able to compete as much as other teams, but if we show a lot more interest in other teams, that is where we can get an edge, because our recruiting boards are going to look so different compared to other schools. Here is another one of my favorites, halfback Corey Miller from San Bernardino, California. He is a 3-star prospect at 5'11", 202. He likes the academics here at Kalispell. It is fairly close to home. He has good agility, good acceleration, not much of a pass catching back, but if he can show some good elusiveness and some moderate speed, I will be very interested. At number 8, another offensive lineman from Colorado this time. It's Antonio Oliver. Another state here in Colorado we should consider trying to create a pipeline. We're actually in first place for him. His impact blocking doesn't look great. Looking to see more of him as a pass blocker. And if that grades out well, we are going to have a ton of interest. At number 9, wide receiver Justin Mclellan, who is a smaller wide receiver. He has decent speed, but we don't really see a whole lot about his receiver skill set. I'm paying a lot of attention to all of these players who have Kalispell ranked highly, and the list will be narrowed down as we continue to scout them over the weeks. At number 10, finally, another quarterback here from Texas, Harold Richards, who has us at number 4. He likes the campus lifestyle here. He likes the outdoors. Not exactly close to Texas, but it's not a deal breaker for him. However, it's still very early here in determining who he is as a prospect. He is a pocket passer, but how good of a pocket passer, we're still going to have to wait and find out. We only know a little bit about each of these prospects, but there are still more players to be scouted, and when new players are put into the top 10 and new players are discovered, then I'm going to be sharing them with you guys on a week-to-week basis, as well as giving updates on what our favorite prospects are doing as far as what schools they are favoring or if they have accepted any offers. I'll try keeping the recruiting board full most of the time, but I'm only going to be putting points into 10 to 15 prospects probably at any given time. So that covers the first look at the recruiting board. What did you all think of the recruits so far, and which are your favorites? But now it's time to look ahead to finally seeing this team play a game. It's their first game against Idaho. Ignore the headline. Of course, people want to watch this game. It's a brand new football program with Leon Daniels calling the shots. We're up against Idaho in week 1. And here are some of their key players, including junior quarterback Matt Linehan, who has moderate throw power, decent accuracy, not very mobile, but he has some good wideouts in Dion Watson. He's a big possession receiver that we don't really have the ability to match up with from a physical standpoint. At tailback, Aaron Duckworth has the speed to really test our front seven and how well we can contain backs like him. And there's Callen Hightower, another speedy wideout. We'll have to be very careful with his ability to make big plays. At cornerback, Jay-Sean Jordan is a smaller corner but extremely talented, and we'll see if we can separate from the likes of him. That is going to bring an end to this episode. Thank you all for watching and supporting the opening of this Kalispell Warhawks dynasty. And next time, they finally take the field at home in front of their home fans against the Idaho Vandals. We will also travel to Idaho next year and play in the Kibbe Dome. Week 1 is coming next, and that will be on my channel early this week. And you can also follow along with my friends Blackjack and Moonlight Swami with their brand new Teambuilder Dynasties as well. It should be a fun time. Let me know down in the comment section what you're looking forward to see in Week 1. And I will see you all in the first game in Kalispell history. Thank you all for watching and have a great day.